right, Madam Chair. All right, good evening, everyone. I call this regular meeting of the Westchester County Board of Legislators to order. If we all could please rise. Legislator Williams leads us in the pledge to the flag.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Almighty God, give us the strength, courage, and wisdom to always act in the interest of the people of Westchester County when we're in this chamber. Let us keep in mind that every decision that we make impacts upon the life, health, and safety of all of our great county residents. Amen. Madam Clerk.
Majority Leader Harcum.
Here.
Minority Leader Mazzano. Here. Ms. Borgia.
Here.
Mr. Burrows. Here. Mr. Gelfarb. Mr. Kaplowitz.
Present.
Ms. Marcotte. Ms. Myers.
Here.
Ms. Perez. Mr. Ryan.
Here.
Ms. Shimsky.
Here.
Mr. Smith.
Here.
Ms. Spreckman. Mr. Testa.
Here.
Ms. Williams.
Here.
Mr. Williams.
Here.
Mr. Chairman.
Here.
Mr. Chairman, we have a quorum.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Mr. Harcum.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I would move the consent agenda with the following three proposed revisions. On page 1, item number 1, please add the Committee on Government Operations. On page 4, item 5, eliminate Committee on Budget and Appropriations and add Committee on Legislation and Committee on Community Services. And then finally, on page 8, number 26, please add the Committee on Government Operations. So moved.
Mr. Mazzano. Thank you, Mr. Mazzano. Mr. Williams.
I'm in agreement.
All right, members, we're on consent agenda. Mr. Harcum on the minutes.
Move the minutes of the Monday, February 11th meeting that was held at 7 p.m.
Without objection, members, so ordered. Madam Clerk, public comment.
Each speaker shall be limited to 3 minutes. I'll call the names of the speakers and ask that you please come down the aisle to my left and wait behind the black ropes. Regina Riley, Edmund Riley, Lena Anderson, Robert Bernstein. The first speaker is Regina Riley.
My name is Regina Riley from the 9th Legislative District of Westchester. Dr. Mildred Jefferson, rest in peace, received her Master's of Science in Chemistry from Tufts University in Boston and her medical degree from that same university. She made an unsuccessful bid for Massachusetts governor's Republican primary in the early 1980s. She was an early spokeswoman for the humanity of the fetal child and the harm abortion does to a woman by causing post-traumatic stress syndrome, specifically post-abortion syndrome. Statistically significant increase in suicides, substance abuse, and promiscuous behaviors after abortion compared with giving birth was something Dr. Jefferson publicized. She was awarded the Women's Equality Day Award in the first year that Women's Equality Day reform was held. The niece of Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King, Dr. Alveda King, had 2 abortions out of shame. She says she lives with that soul-searing regret daily. Dr. Alveda understands the abortion for blacks is the new slavery. Note, 61% of the fetal black children in the Bronx die by abortion. More than guns, other violent crimes, heart disease, AIDS, drugs, alcoholism, diabetes, all combined, the abortion is the greatest threat to the black embryonic child. Reverend Kennard Childress, a speaker at Women's Equality Day, Reformed, and Reverend Geneva Patterson, rest in peace, another Women's Equality Day Reform awardee, realized the danger, the real danger to the whole society, but especially to the survival of the black community. Black genocide awareness is impolite but true. Dr. Childress, like a prophet not accepted in his own land by his own people, is ridiculed for speaking the truth. Planned Parenthood's eugenics to eliminate the unfit, quote unquote, continues to put their abortion mills in the heart of inner cities and poor neighborhoods. The Cousins-Klein universal abortion bill is a travesty to equal justice. Non-doctors doing abortions for any reason up to the moment of birth, decriminalizing abortion. These are things which are unacceptable in a society that's supposed to care for the weakest of the weak. And this man, Dr. Carhart, under this bill, would not be held under criminal law for what he did to this woman down in Maryland if he were here in New York and this bill survives. And if whatever it does to women of any other race, it does 100-fold to the women of the Negro race. I hope that you understand God is the God of all, and he looks down with great horror at what this bill would bring about in New York.
Ed Riley.
My name is Ed Riley. I'm from Croton. I'd like to read the quote of the week. This is by a liberal who writes for Time magazine. You've all heard of him. Primary colors, Joe Klein, Pelham, New York. Sonograms have made it impossible to deny that the thing in the womb is a human being. For the 40th time, I'm asking the Abortion Coalition of Shimsky, Borgia, Ms. Rye, Williams, and Harkham to investigate how Planned Parenthood conducts business in Westchester County. And it's particularly appropriate since Planned Parenthood is being investigated en masse in 6 states, 3 of which are blue states, including the city of Chicago and the state of Illinois. Planned Parenthood, by their own number now, has increased the number of abortions they've done from under 300,000 to 324,008 abortions in 2008, and a whopping prenatal care number of 7,021 and 977 referrals for adoption. Their primary business is abortion. They make a lot of money at it. And as my sister pointed out, they do it especially in black neighborhoods. The black population in the United States would be decreasing if it wasn't for immigration from the West Indies and Africa, because in New York City, Bronx, it's 60% of black children are killed. In New York City, it's 40%, and the biggest number is the target group increasing at an increasing rate, are Hispanics. In the city of Baltimore, it's in excess of 50%. In the nation's capital, it's in excess of 50%. Now, the death of this woman from New Rochelle, age 29, has uncovered, and it would not have been covered unless we forced it to be covered both in the TV and press of this county, and we're going to press it some more, because it uncovered the abortion pipeline that runs along the east coast of the United States. This man, Carhart, if you know anything about abortion, if you bothered to look on the internet, is Mr. Partial Birth Abortion. His name is on Carhart versus Gonzalez. Who's Gonzalez? The Attorney General of the United States. His name is on Carhart versus Ashcroft. Who's he? The Attorney General of the United States. His name is on Stenberg versus Carhart. Who's he? The Attorney General of the state of Nebraska. This man is up to his eyeballs in killing late-term children. And the abortion trade starts in New York, in Albany, runs through White Plains, runs down the East Coast. Let me name a couple of names for you. Local boy, Mark Binder, Stephen, write it down, Stephen Chase Brigham. Look this up on the internet. It'll knock your socks off if you're a cherry. Kermit Gosnell. The name of the YouTube is, he's coming for trial in 3 weeks. 3801 Lancaster. Write it down. 3801 Lancaster. That's how they conduct business in this state. That's how they conduct business in Maryland, in Pennsylvania, New Jersey, Delaware, Connecticut, and New York.
Mr. Rowley, could you wrap? Thank you.
Unfortunately, your guest tonight, Senator Stuart Cousins, is the primary mover of trying to make the state of New York look like the state of Maryland and an abortion destination. Talk to her and tell her to withdraw that bill.
Lena Anderson.
Chairman Jenkins, members of the Board of Legislators, good evening. My name's Lena Anderson, and I'm president of the White Plains Greenberg NAACP. And I thank you for the opportunity to once again speak to you briefly about the future of West Health. I spoke previously of the controversial history out of which Health was constructed. A landmark civil rights ruling from the United States Court of Appeals said, you cannot form a village for the purpose of excluding racial minorities. For this same reason, you cannot import a school onto county-owned property for the purpose of excluding low and moderate income families under the guise of helping the developmentally disabled. It's a disingenuous betrayal of the taxpayers. Under the agreement struck in 1990, Greenberg has control of the county-owned apartments until 2031 if they were rented to serve low and moderate income tenants. The fact that these apartments were not immediately made available and rented to serve low and moderate income tenants, as the lease stated, means that there was a serious violation of the lease agreement currently in existence. And here we are, 20 years later, considering destroying these apartments. Once the need for homeless housing ended, the agreement between the town of Greenberg and the county of Westchester was that these West Health apartments were to be used for low and moderate income rental housing. This was the balance struck in a deal made with the moderation of Governor Cuomo. It requires that Greenberg create housing. So why would you, our county legislators, also stewards of the taxpayer property, consider another lease with this entity who's already violated the lease in place right now? The town has breached its fiduciary duty to be a good steward by allowing the property to lie dormant and deteriorate. This is an abrogation of their immediate duty to the people of Greenberg. The agreement stated that, quote, "The lessee identified a need to provide additional low and moderate housing for its population and further clarified that population as families within its population." Yes, monies will have to be spent now to bring the property back up to code. However, 5 private investors comprising both profit and nonprofit entities have proposed to invest $2 to $3 million to make the facility habitable. The universal design applies to new construction that's county funded. So it's not intended for this project. We don't have to argue about what amounts to making it habitable for the handicapped. We should consider these private investors. We should not consider wasting taxpayer monies. They're asking for state aid to further the demolition, more taxpayer dollars. We are encouraged and expect our elected officials in the county legislature to take strong action to enforce compliance with the agreement that's already been made. We urge you to collaborate with Ferncliff to find a suitable location without wasting taxpayer dollars. Surely they deserve appropriate space to deliver services, but educational resources were not within the purview of this original lease and should not be considered now.
Can we wrap this up? We need you to wrap.
I'll wrap it up. Black History Month gives me great pride in reminding you Dr. Collymore came before you, and as a result, the county integrated playland. I come before you because I stand on his shoulders, and I want you to have your conscience pricked by the need to provide housing for veterans, for seniors, and for those who have moved out, your children, your grandchildren, because they could not afford to live in Westchester. Affordable housing, that's what this is all about.
Robert Bernstein.
Good evening. Lena Anderson is a hard act to follow, but I'll try to be brief and succinct. For those of you who don't know me, I'm a director of the Edgemont Community Council. I'm also a lawyer. I happen to be the lawyer who intervened in the lawsuit between the Valhalla School District and the town of Greenburgh and succeeded in getting back to the Greenburgh taxpayers the money that was illegally dispersed. So I know something about the background of this situation. My purpose tonight is to address the county's affordable housing crisis and the dilemma over what to do with these former West Help apartments. Some call this the Ferncliff issue, and I want to address that. With all due respect to those who sincerely want to help Ferncliff find a new home, the issue here is not about whether the education of severely developmentally challenged children is more important than providing affordable housing. Let me explain why that is a false choice. Section 11 of Municipal Home Rule Law says counties, county legislators, are not supposed to be enacting laws that support or maintain education. There's a reason for those laws. The reason is that the state legislature has decreed that the education of children, including the developmentally challenged, no matter how severe their developmental disabilities may be, is exclusively the responsibility of the State Department of Education. It is not the responsibility of the Westchester County Board of Legislators. Why is that? So politicians will never be able to pit the education needs of children, including those who are developmentally disabled, against other needs for which you folks do have authority. Giving Ferncliff 108 county-owned apartments worth an estimated $20 million, so Ferncliff can destroy them to build its new campus, is supporting and maintaining education in violation of state law. So what's going on here? This is really about hostility among some of you to affordable housing generally, and particularly hostility to West Help. Yes, this is about evening the score for some of you. Evening the score by getting back at the NAACP for winning a court battle 20 years ago to get West Help built in the first place. evening the score by getting back at those who stood in the way of Mayfair, Knollwood, and Valhalla illegally getting millions of dollars in Greenberg revenues from the West Help rent as compensation for having single mothers and their infant children a mile from their homes. Appalling? Yes. Yes, there are those who never want West Help housing built in the first place, who see Ferncliff as an opportunity to get back at those who put it there by having it torn down. All, they say, for a good cause. Wrap up? This is a very dangerous game to play, folks. There's an affordable housing crisis in our region, and the federal government will not look kindly upon those of you who play fast and loose with the federal mandate to support affordable housing in our community, in our county. There's huge millions of dollars in federal funds at risk here. Please don't jeopardize them by this sort of selfish, politically motivated behavior. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, I have no other cards.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Before we go to the regular order of business, I just wanted to note that was on the record for this evening on the notices and petitions from a member for suspension of the rules. I just want to comment again that the rules are in place for a really good reason, and we have even identification of those particular rules. We still would have a concern for individual members. So if there's an item that is of issue, certainly every member here has that right pursuant to those rules that we want to suspend to be able to move those forward. So we should make sure that we reserve for the times that we need to and be judicious about that. Madam Clerk, regular order of business.
Under Standing Committees, item 5000 from the Committees on Budget Appropriations and Government Operations is a bond act authorizing the issue.
Point of information.
Mr. Smith, your point of information.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The individual who wrote the letter to suspend the rules was me. As I read through the rules of the board, as you frame this, that's not in the rules of the board. So it may be the way things have been done, particularly in the past.
Point of order, Mr. Chair.
I don't know that there's any particular issue with me doing what seems to be permitted within the rules of the board.
Your question would be, what is the point of information, and that would be correct. But Mr. Smith had a point, and we were allowing that point to be brought. Mr. Smith, it is actually, again, the point for all members is that we have rules in place, and as the majority leader and minority leader have both stated on numerous occasions, to protect individual members' rights. And we certainly are not trying to abridge anyone's right, because pursuant to the rules, it allows for a member to request a suspension of the rules to do something. In our case, since it is silent, Masons also further specifies that we should be specific about that rule. Again, so that we have some decorum. Just for that simple reason. When we do things like for public hearings, for example, we suspend the order of business. Mr. Harcum stands up and says, I'm suspending the regular order of business for the purpose of conducting one public hearing so that we have those rights protected. Every member of this board has the right to over something without question. Mr. Mazzano took time on the floor to explain and recognize that in his time as a legislature, that is what the rights are. So we're just trying to make sure that we're dealing with the issues as they come up. Certainly members can do and make a request, but just for decorum and making sure things move forward, we would make sure that we're not suspending or making a request to suspend the rules, even numerically, whether it was 10 or 12 of the rules, which basically were all the rules anyway, to be able to do that, including things like we're conducting a regular meeting, the agenda items. I just think that we're trying to have a level of decorum that makes some sense. Thank you. Madam Clerk, Mr. Mazzano.
I really don't want to get in the middle of this discussion, but let me just say this. This conversation that just went on between the chair and Legislator Smith is just unnecessary. I wish you hadn't gone down that road, Mr. Chair. We have rules. If someone would like to waive one of the rules, we have rules to do that. We have procedures to do that. We have Mason's rules to interpret our rules. There's no reason for this commercial that you did today, Mr. Chair, about this issue. If there comes a time where a legislator has made a motion to suspend the rules, properly done by our board's rules, we'll vote on that, the 17 legislators. That's how it works. There's no need for commercials. There's no reason for this debate that just went on. When the time comes, if someone does everything properly in the rules, the 17 legislators will have a debate, and they'll have a vote, and we'll decide if a matter is in order or not. So this is the second meeting in a row where you did a commercial that was unnecessary, and I wish you wouldn't do that in the future. When we'll follow, I know that you agree that this board has to follow the rules. I think all 17 of us know we have to follow the rules. Nobody has violated a rule, and when the time comes to vote on the rules on the floor, we will do so. There's no need for commercials and these kind of comments that are just unnecessary.
Madam Clerk.
Understanding Committees, item 5000, from the Committees on Budget and Appropriations and Government Operations, a bond act authorizing the issuance of up to $180,000 in bonds of the county to finance capital project P0023 BRP Service Bridge Yonkers.
Ms. Myers.
Yes. This is a request for the bonding of $180,000 to actually provide the design, construction management, and construction. It's actually a painting project that's being done on a bridge to actually protect the steel, and it's being designed in-house. We have 2 months' worth of design and then 3 months' worth of construction. So moved. I will turn this over to Legislator Borgia.
Ms. Borgia.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is not a path that is traveled by vehicular traffic. However, the bridge, which was built in 1952, was given a rating of 5.08, and that was in 1999. It hasn't been rated in quite a while. It does also, in addition to the work that Legislator Myers described, this also does serve as access way for emergency vehicles into the Oak Street Loop. So Government Operations recommends that we go forward with this project. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Borgia. Members on this item. Ms. Shimsky.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This kind of project that takes care of one deficient aspect of an otherwise pretty good piece of infrastructure is a very important and a very proactive way of dealing with infrastructure maintenance. It will prevent in future years far more expensive infrastructure projects to repair and replace steel. Coat of paint is a lot cheaper. I'm glad that the Department of Public Works is going back to this kind of proactive approach, and I look forward to similar projects in the future. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Shimsky. Members on this item. Madam Clerk, a long roll call.
Mr. Harcum. Yes. Mr. Mazzano. Yes. Ms. Borgia.
Yes.
Mr. Burrows. Yes. Mr. Gelfard. Yes. Mr. Kaplowitz.
Aye.
Ms. Marcotte. Ms. Myers.
Yes.
Ms. Perez.
Yes.
Mr. Ryan.
Yes.
Ms. Shimsky.
Aye.
Mr. Smith.
Yes.
Mr. Testa.
Yes.
Ms. Williams.
Yes.
Mr. Williams.
Yes.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes.
Approved 16-0. Item 5002 from the Committees on Budget and Appropriations and Government Operations, a bond act authorizing the issuance of up to $200,000 in bonds of the county to finance capital project RBO3H, Midland Avenue, Bronx River Parkway, Yonkers.
Ms. Myers.
Yes, this is a bond act for $200,000 to provide the design work for a repair to the Midland Avenue over the Bronx River Parkway, a bridge over the Bronx River Parkway. It is to be handled by a design consultant. They're expected to take 5 months worth of design and then 9 months for construction. So moved, and I will turn this over to Legislator Borgia.
Ms. Borgia.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The annual daily traffic count is 8,393. The bridge was built in 1950 and does have a deficiency rating of 4.36 in 2010. As the Department of Public Works described to us, there is some urgency to this project, so we'd like to see it move forward from government operations. Thank you.
Thank you. Members on this item? Ms. Myers, on this particular item, is there a reason the capital project fact sheet is not included?
We do have a fiscal impact statement that reflects the capital budget impact.
I'm just wondering if there's usually the fact sheet that's associated with it as well. That's fine. Mr. Testa.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, real quick, it's just for design purposes?
It is.
I heard construction, so I want to make sure that...
Design.
Just design, okay, thank you.
I know just on a normal basis, we normally would have the capital projects fact sheet that's associated with it as well as the fiscal impact. Just noting that for the record, it's certainly work that we're trying to have done, but something for us to consider as we move forward. Unless there's objection, members will take the prior long roll call vote for the approval of the item. So ordered.
Approved 16-0. Item 5028 from the Committees on Budget and Appropriations and Government Operations, a bond act authorizing Westchester County to issue up to $820,000 in bonds of the county to finance capital project P0024 Bronx River Parkway Rehab Program.
Ms. Myers.
Yes, this bond is for the design only, a year's worth of design work, it's estimated, and again, will be handled by an outside consultant. We believe the fiscal impact statement was revised to reflect that it's not county staff working on this, it is a consultant, and we were told that this is due to a backlog of work in public works. I will now turn this over to Legislator Borgia.
Ms. Borgia.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. It's the rehabilitation of about 4.36 miles of road, quite a bit of work that will not only make the road safer, but also is expected to enhance the stormwater management of that area. It has an average daily traffic count of 123,000 from the Bronx line to the Sprain Parkway, and then from that split, then there's an annual daily traffic count of 84,650. The associated pavement condition index, which is a road measure, is 64, which is on the low side of acceptable. So, from the Government Operations Committee, we'd recommend that this does move forward.
Mr. Williams. Thank you, Ms. Borgia.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I was not sure on the prior item, but I understand that this item also is going to be done by outside consultants versus using the county internal staff to do this. I'd like to have an explanation as to why, because I fundamentally disagree with using outside consultants because they're more expensive. It is, I know that from experience in talking to the capital project subcommittee with the commissioner, that it's a significant amount of additional cost to the taxpayers when we go out and hire consultants who are simply doing part-time work and not using our internal staff to do the work. If it is that we do not have the internal staff to do this kind of work, then I'd like to understand what would be the reason for us not having that. I understand that we laid off a number of persons who worked in the design department in the Public Works Department, several last year. And so I am really concerned about the cost that we'll be incurring. Now, there's a difference between projects that we really did not have the skills in-house to do. And that's distinguishable. I understand that. Those I will vote to approve. But projects that we had the staff to do or some or other decided to go outside, I think that that is a bad, very, very bad precedent to be setting, and I will not be supportive of such projects. So if this is one that where a decision has been made because we don't have the internal skills set or never had the internal skill set, that project I will support. But if it's not, then I will vote against that, the project.
Thank you. Ms. Myers.
Yes, to answer my colleague's question, because I did take notes on this, when the Commissioner of Public Works was asked why we needed to do this with a consultant instead of doing it in-house, he did reply that we have a backlog of work, which should answer my colleague's question.
Thank you, Ms. Myers. Ms. Marcotte.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just also to that point, one of the things that's not being talked about here this evening is the Commissioner also testified to the fact that at this point in time, the department was very busy due to Hurricane Sandy. Much of the staff has been assigned to work on some of those projects. So I think it's sort of being twisted around, and the Commissioner's words are being twisted. He's not here to defend himself, but he did testify to that at the committee meeting 2 weeks ago, and I wanted to put that on the record. So thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Marcotte. The question, I guess, would be which projects would those be for Hurricane Sandy, because they would have had to have been approved by the board for them to be taking action on them. Right. I believe the only ones that we approved for Hurricane Sandy would be the Playland ones. I believe that's the case, unless there's other ones that I'm not aware of from a voting perspective, but the department members would not be responsible for working on projects that were beyond the scope of whatever work that we had authorized, maybe just in general. Members and Madam Chairs, on this particular item, in looking at the electronic documentation for this particular project, it appears that there was a new draft that was submitted, I guess, in January of 2013 for this particular project, and that particular piece of draft legislation has omitted the capital project fact sheets. So Madam Chair, is that if you could make sure that those items are in there, because in the original draft of this document, we would have noted that we approved this funding for this particular project in 2011. So we would have done that in 2010 for the 2011 capital budget program. So I'm not sure why that changed, but it's not something that was done on the committee. It's certainly something that was done on submission and a resubmitted item. So maybe we just want to follow that up for the future. Madam Clerk, members, unless there's objection, we'll take the Madam Clerk, a long roll call vote.
Mr. Harcum.
Yes.
Mr. Mazzano. Yes. Ms. Borgia.
Yes.
Mr. Burrows. Yes. Mr. Gelfard. Mr. Kaplowitz.
Aye.
Ms. Marcotte. Ms. Myers.
Aye.
Ms. Perez.
Yes.
Mr. Ryan.
Yes.
Ms. Shimsky.
Aye.
Mr. Smith.
Yes.
Mr. Testa.
Yes.
Ms. Williams. Yes. Mr. Williams.
No.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes.
Approved 15-1. Item 5464 from the Committees on Budget Appropriations and Government Operations, a bond act authorizing the issuance of up to $320,000 in bonds of Westchester County to finance capital project RBO 3B, Butlerville Road over Croton River, Somers.
Thank you. This is a bond, as just described, for $320,000 for Butlerville Road, the capital project Butlerville Road over the Croton River in Somers. It is for design, to fund the cost of design only, and again, it is to be done by a consultant, not by the DPW staff. I will turn this over to Legislator Borgia.
Legislator Borgia.
Thank you, Mr. Vice Chair. This is also a bridge that was built in 1916. It has a substandard rating of 4.71 in 2011. It is project that, upon review with the DPW, we do believe from government operations is necessary for safety issues. As Legislator Myers says, it is for a replacement of the existing bridge on Butlerville Road. So government operations is recommending that we move forward with this project. Thank you.
Members on the question. Without objection, I would take the prior long roll call vote. Okay. Oh, thank you for that comment. Long roll call, Madam Clerk.
Mr. Harcum?
Yes.
Mr. Mazzano? Yes. Ms. Borgia?
Yes.
Mr. Burrows? Mr. Gelfarb? Mr. Kaplowitz?
Aye.
Ms. Marcotte? Ms. Myers?
Yes.
Ms. Perez?
Yes.
Mr. Ryan?
Yes.
Ms. Shimsky?
Aye.
Mr. Smith?
Yes.
Mr. Testa?
Yes.
Ms. Williams?
Yes.
Mr. Williams?
No.
Mr. Chairman? Item is approved 14-1. Item 5556 from the Committee on Appointments is the appointment of Zoe M. Colonna as an at-large member of the Westchester County Domestic Violence Council for a term to expire December 31st, 2014.
Legislator Shimsky.
Thank you, Mr. Acting Chairman. The Appointments Committee interviewed Ms. Colon, found her to be very intelligent, very energetic, and very well-versed in the subject matter. She'll make a fine addition to this board, and we therefore wholeheartedly recommend her approval here tonight.
Members on the question. Madam Clerk, long roll call.
Mr. Harcum?
Yes.
Mr. Mazzano? Yes. Ms. Borgia?
Yes.
Mr. Burrows? Mr. Gelfarb? Mr. Kaplowitz?
Aye.
Ms. Marcotte? Ms. Myers?
Yes.
Ms. Perez?
Yes.
Mr. Ryan?
Yes.
Ms. Shimsky?
Aye.
Mr. Smith?
Yes.
Mr. Testa?
Yes.
Ms. Williams?
Yes.
Mr. Williams?
Yes.
Approved 15-0. Item 5794 from the Committee on Budget and Appropriations, an act authorizing the County of Westchester to enter into a settlement agreement and general release with the Bank of America upon the bank's payment to the county in the sum of $50,482.74.
Legislator Myers.
Yes, this was actually a very, very good piece of news here. This was the result of an internal audit within the Finance Department that discovered that the county had actually been overcharged for bank fees. And this request for authorization to enter into the settlement agreement does settle this dispute, and it also it provides some extra revenue to the county in return for what had been erroneous and false claims. So moved.
Members on the question. Members, without objection, I will take the prior long roll call for approval of this item. So ordered.
Approved 15-0. Item 4944 from the Committees on Community Services and Budget Appropriations, an act authorizing Westchester County to enter into an agreement with the Westchester County Healthcare Corporation for a term commencing January 1, 2012 through December 31, 2014, whereby WCHCC, through a third-party ambulance service, will provide services as required for facilities operated by the Department of Social Services and located on the Valhalla campus.
Legislator Alfreda Williams.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, Mr. Vice Chair, rather. As the clerk read, this is an act which will provide third-party ambulance service through Westchester County Health Corporation. The amount is not to exceed $116,000 per year for a total during the term of the act of $348,000. All costs are totally reimbursable by Medicaid. Thank you, Mr. Chair. So moved.
Legislator Myers.
Yes, this also came before the Budget and Appropriations Committee, and I would like to note that the DSS, the Department of Social Services, was asked to please reach out to our corrections department because there could be some savings made by having both corrections and Westchester County Healthcare Corporation and the county submit an RFP together for ambulance service. It was also noted, and given what we've been discussing here today in some of the public comment, that this would also serve the former Greenberg West Help facility if that comes under the county's purview once again. Thank you.
Members on the question. Without objection, I will take the prior long roll call for approval of this item. So ordered.
Approved 15-0. Item 5146 from the Committee on Budget and Appropriations is an act amending Act Number 25, 2011, increasing the not-to-exceed amount under an agreement with Wilson, Elser, Moskowitz, Edelman, and Dicker, and the County of Westchester for legal representation in the lawsuit entitled CSEA et al. Versus County of Westchester et al.
Legislator Myers.
Yes, this was a request that was discussed over two Budget and Appropriation Committee meetings because there were a number of questions. But today, Budget and Appropriations did vote to turn this out to the full board for approval. This increases the not-to-exceed amount by $43,000. The work has been completed, and the bill needs to be paid. So moved.
Members on the question. Members, if there are no objections, I will take the prior long roll call vote for approval of the item. So ordered.
Approved 15-0. Item 5561 from the Committee on Budget and Appropriations, an act entitled an act increasing the not-to-exceed amount from $75,000 to $120,000 to compensate the law firm of Jackson Lewis for legal services rendered in connection with an administrative proceeding initiated against an employee in the law department.
Legislator Myers.
Thank you. This, too, was an item that was discussed over two Budget and Appropriation Committees, 2 weeks of our meetings, because, again, this was a rather large amount, a rather large amount that had been exceeded to the tune of $45,000. We were assured, however, that this was not a normal case and that that they had to complete the work before coming back to the Board of Legislators for this approval. So moved.
Members on the question. Members, if there are no objections, I will take the prior long roll call vote of the item. So ordered.
Approved 15-0. Item 5585 from the Committee on Legislation is a resolution to set a public hearing on a local law amending the laws of Westchester County by adding a new chapter relating to the establishment of regulations to prevent the displacement of building service workers.
Legislator Ryan.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The committee just asked that the public hearing be set for, that would be our next meeting date. It's really, you'll note in the agenda there, it's 2012. Actually, it should be 2013. The next meeting date is scheduled for
March 11th.
March 11th. Okay, we would like that then at March 11th at 7:30 p.m. All right, and the notice, what that goes out, should make sure it corrects that 12 to a 13.
March 11th at 7:30 p.m. Members on the question? Members, without objection, I will take the prior long roll call vote for approval of the item. So ordered.
Approved 15-0. Item 5782 from the Committees on Community Services and Budget and Appropriations, an act authorizing the county to enter into 3 intermunicipal agreements with the City of New Rochelle for youth career services.
Legislator Williams.
Thank you. These three intermunicipal agreements provide for grant funding from the New York State Department of Labor to Westchester County Department of Social Services for the City of New Rochelle's Youth Bureau to provide career growth services for young people in New Rochelle, including career exploration, occupational assistance, resume preparation, placement and referral and placement, interview preparation, and follow-up with workplace mentoring, as well as being able to pass a nationally recognized exam establishing competency for entry-level employment. It's called the National Work Readiness Credential Exam, and those youth participating in the entire program will receive a stipend to cover expenses during their training period. So moved, Mr. Chair.
Legislator Myers.
Yes, this also came to Budget and Appropriations, and this was moved to the floor by B&A, so second.
Okay, members on the question. Members, if no objection, I will take the prior long roll call for approval of this item. So ordered.
Approved 15-0. Item 5783 from the Committees on Government Operations and Budget and Appropriations is a bond act authorizing the issuance of $800,000 in bonds of the county to finance capital project BPL23, stormwater management, various county facilities.
Legislator Borgia.
Thank you. This is actually quite an interesting project. It is it was started as a water quality project, and then upon the design being completed as part of a larger water quality project, we realized that this could also be useful for flood mitigation. This project is involving the removal of invasive and non-native plants, replacement of an existing culvert using a more advanced design that will allow for water to flow back into a wetlands that was man-made, although this will reclaim the wetlands. So once the invasive plants are pulled out, the fact that the water will be able to flow more freely back and forth into the wetlands, we hope will mean that the invasive plants will be able to get a new foothold in this particular area. As I mentioned, the design has already been completed, so this amount of money is basically to fund the actual work of the capital project. The interesting thing about well, I find it interesting at least, about the culvert design is that the problem with the existing culverts is that because they weren't large enough and wide enough, sediment clogged the culvert, and then that's what sort of dried out the wetlands on the other side of the culvert, and that's what allowed the invasive plants to come in. So it's a solution to a problem, a nature-created problem, but we are solving it through advanced design. So Government Operations would like to move this item. Thank you.
Legislator Myers.
Yes, Budget and Appropriations would also like to see this moved forward. Thank you.
Okay, members on the question. Legislator Shimsky.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We have a number of county properties throughout that are located in various watersheds. This is the kind of happy project that we do have money appropriated for in our flood mitigation legislation. We should look ahead to see if there are ways to replicate this type of project and the projected results in other spots throughout the county that also suffer from flooding problems. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other members? Okay. Without objection, I will take the prior long roll call vote for approval of the item. So ordered.
Approved 15-0. Motions, resolutions, call of the districts.
Legislator Borrows.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just would like to be added with Elfrida Williams and Yvonne Clarice Steele Graves. That is the mother of a very good friend of mine, and if it's not a problem with you, I know there's a memorial service on this Saturday, So I'd like to sign it and bring the memorial plaque over to the church. So perhaps one of your staff members can meet with one of mine and we can exchange it. Obviously, I'll give it on your behalf as well.
I'll be there. We can do it together.
Any other members? Legislator Ryan.
Mr. Chair, this evening, Legislator Testa has a number of names for memorial resolutions. One is Caroline Cernice, and if it's all right, I'd like to join Mr. Testa on that memorial resolution.
Do you want to join on Keels?
Any other member? Legislator.
Thank you. I'd like to be added, Mr. Vice Chair, along with Legislators Mazzano and Gelfarb, to Susan Marcus. And I would also request that the name of Alan Austin be added for my district. Thank you.
Legislator Ryan.
I'm sorry, Mr. Chairman. I have one other I'd like to be included on under Elfrida Williams, John Keels, Jr.
Legislator Borger.
I'd just like to tell my colleagues that Marie Traditti is the mother-in-law of Ken Donato, who I know worked for the county in 211, and also was a very powerful domestic violence advocate in Westchester County. And I just wanted, if anyone knew him or worked with Ken, I knew him for many years as the Town of Austin police chief, but he did move on to the county greener pastures. So if anyone is interested in signing on to that, I know Ken would appreciate it. Mrs. Traditti was a very significant force for good in his life. For those of you who know Ken, you know that his family of origin was, there was a lot of violence in his family of origin, and I know that when he became part of the Traditti family, that was a real turning point in the right direction. So I know he had a great deal of love for his mother-in-law.
Okay. Any members?
I'd like to be added.
Okay.
I'd like to be added as well.
As well as, yes, Legislator Perez would like to be added also. Any other comments on the memorial resolutions? Okay. We will stand and take a moment of silence for the persons mentioned in our memorial resolution. Mr. Harkin.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. At this juncture, I would move that we adjourn and this body reconvene on March 11th at 7 p.m.
Short roll call vote, Madam Clerk.
Absolutely.
Mr. Harkin?
Here, I mean, yeah.
Mr. Mazzano?
Everywhere.
Mr. Mazzano?
Yes.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes. On the motion of Legislator Harkin, the board stands adjourned.
Yeah, I'll forward it.